Exit algorithms. Scale smarter. Sell stronger.
Welcome to Exit Algorithms, the podcast where we decode what it really takes to unlock growth, streamline operations, and prepare your business for a high-value exit. I'm your host, Pete Vera, and today I'm joined by Vance Morris. He spent a decade as a senior leader at Walt Disney World and is now one of the most sought-after customer experience and retention strategists in the country as President and Chief Experience Officer at the Deliver ServiceNow Institute. Vance, excited to have you here today. Welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate it, Pete. Hopefully we'll drop some gold nuggets for everybody today.
Absolutely. I'm sure we will. I always do a good amount of research on my guests. I really love your background. It's very unique and entrepreneurial journey. Do you mind sharing maybe some of the highs and lows and
Sure.
How you ended up doing your work today?
Yeah, there's plenty of highs and lows. I'm hoping the highs have outnumbered the lows, but it's hard to keep track sometimes. So I worked for the Disney company for a little over a decade. Had a couple of corporate jobs after that. Along the way, I realized I make a lousy employee. I just don't like to be told what to do. So managed to get myself fired a couple of times. And I said, I should probably be doing something on my own. I really wanted to open a restaurant. But I didn't have $2 million liquid cash laying around to really finance it the right way. So I did what every small boy dreams of doing, and I opened a carpet cleaning business here in Maryland. But I opened it with a direction that it was going to be a premium service. So we're not one of those go look on the telephone pole, we'll clean your whole house for $49. We've got a lot of pockets of affluence where I am, so really targeted the affluent communities with a experience that you generally don't get with carpet cleaners. So I grew that and added an Oriental rug washing facility to it, added a mold remediation company to it. That was 19 years ago. And about 7 years ago, I was able to put a general manager in place to pretty much run all three businesses. So now I spend about 90 minutes a week on those three businesses. 1 hour of that is just meeting with the general manager. The other 30 minutes is accounting and bookkeeping and credit cards and bank account, because I'll never take my fingers off of that. And so it was all about putting processes and systems in place. And when I hired the GM, I told him, don't screw with anything, just manage the systems. Right. Yeah. So we had the marketing system, customer retention system, operation system, etc. And, so the systems really gave me the freedom to go out and do what I really enjoy, which is working with small businesses on their customer experience. And I always say, if you can't deliver a great customer experience, you don't really have a prayer of retaining a customer. So once we have the experience down, then we really look at all of the strategies and tactics we need for customer retention, because it's not the customer. Everybody thinks, I'll do a good job and people should remember me. And sadly, that's very far from the truth. So it's not the customer's job to remember you. It's your job as the business owner to remind the customer that you exist. So I work a lot in those two realms, primarily with professional service firms or larger home service firms like HVAC and plumbing and things like that. And here I am.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love your story. I'm curious, coming from Walt Disney World, was there anything that you learned that you continue to take with you with your businesses today?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it. It was systems. When I got hired at Disney, my first job was on the opening team of the Yacht and Beach Club Resort, which is over by Epcot Center. And I remember walking through this. Remember, this was 1990, so we didn't have computers or phones or anything yet. And so we were walking into the training room, and there's just stacks and stacks of 3-inch binders. I mean, just hundreds of them. And I asked my boss, I said, what's all this? And he goes, well, these are all of the OJTs and SOPs for how to open and operate a Disney resort. And they had one for the busboys, one for the valets, one for house. I mean, every position had this binder. And so what I learned was that Disney runs on systems. They got a system for everything. You want to carry a tray in a restaurant? They got a system for it. You want to change a bus tire? They got a process for it. And I realized that systems give you freedom. So as I mentioned, in my my home service businesses, I implemented all these systems. I only got to work 90 minutes a week on them. For the employees, though, if what we found was that if you had a system, you essentially learned it and it was like muscle memory. You did it by rote. And that gave your brain excess capacity to do all of the nice things that Disney's known for. So you're not constantly having to think about doing your job, you're just doing it. And so, that brain capacity allows you to do the pictures and the autographs and give directions and be nice to people and, that kind of thing. That was really the biggest aha that I had literally from day one, and then have carried it through the last 30 some odd years.
Yeah, excellent way to model your business and build it, especially as you add new employees, they can easily follow a playbook. Right.
Well, the other thing with the systems is that it adds to your business's value when you're getting ready to sell. Especially if you have a operations system in place, documented, not just like up in your head, but like a documented system, all your employees know what it is. You're adding like a 1 to 1.5 multiple, to the value of your business. And then you throw in your marketing system, your customer retention system. All of those things just continue to add to the multiple and the value of the business. So you're not just looking at, EBITDA or SDE or whatever method you're using. You're looking at, these systems that continuously drive repeat business, lower your customer acquisition cost. All these things play into it.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Buyers are looking for an asset that will continue to generate revenue and have a potential for growth. And the systems are, the core part of that. Absolutely agree. Does your process around customer experience change with a small company versus, as it grows and scales and you hire more people?
The customer experience system that they put in place naturally grows with the company, but the core principles are essentially the same. A lot of people always ask me, okay, well, why are we trying to copy Disney? I don't own a roller coaster. I don't have a cast of characters. I don't have a castle. Why? And so it's not about copying. It's about adapting what Disney does into our businesses. So, and it's down to the minutia of answering the telephone. How do you answer the phone in your business? And that is its own little process, its own little system. And because Disney's just figured out a way to make it fun and exciting and kind of a wow moment. So we try to do the same thing. So I had do you have time for a quick story on this?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I was working with a group of insurance agents, and one of them became my client. He's an Allstate guy, and he had about 7 or 8 other Allstate agents in his area, plus all of the other guys. There's like 50 or 60 insurance agents, and he was having a tough time standing out. And we figured when we mapped out his customer journey, answering the phone was like his number one thing when it came to getting new customers. But it was taking up a lot of his time because people were just calling with the question of how much, how much are you going to save me? How much is the policy, etc. So we also wanted a way to separate him from everybody else out there because, insurance guys, they're a commodity. And so how do we do that? So we're doing a brainstorming session, and his receptionist actually came up with the way to answer the phone. You call most businesses and it's, "Thank you for calling Dave's Insurance. How can I help you?" You get some version of that. Well, my guy was a rock and roll fanatic. You go into his office, he had autographed, posters on the wall, guitars, gold records. Just rock and roll nut. So the receptionist said, "I think we should lean into that personality." And so now the way they answer the phone is, "Thank you for calling Dave's Allstate, the agency that rocks." And they kind of channel their inner Wolfman Jack. And yeah, the first, 16 times you say it, it sounds a little corny. But answering the phone that way did a whole bunch of stuff. One, it separated him from everybody else out there. So there's that little experience part. And you know that the relationship is going to be kind of like that, always little surprises. And then 2, it does what your marketing is supposed to do, which is either attract the people you want to do business with or repel the people you don't. And by answering the phone that way, they sift, sorted, and screened out anybody who'd be a bad client for them. So it's, finding those little moments, those interactions on the customer journey and figuring out how do we make an experience out of that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that story. Yeah, that's a good mindset and mentality to have. Yeah, especially customer service. I feel like in general has gone down a lot
You're not kidding.
these days. Have you seen that personally?
Yeah, especially in the home services realm, just because I'm in that world, so many businesses have gone to either AI answering the telephone or a bot or just plain voicemail. And I refuse. So, like, you call any one of my businesses, you get a real person. They're alive, heart beating, all that, because you can't. One, the AI and the bot thing just drives people nuts. Press one for this, press two for that. It doesn't understand you half the time, and then you end up yelling at it, representative, I want to talk to somebody. So I think our competitive advantage right now is having a live person answering the phone. They have empathy. They can understand, little touches of frustration that might be in your voice. And yeah, I think that's really where a lot of people fall down, is just in that answering the phone part. And then of course there's the, show up when you say you're going to show up. I had a guy fixing our deck. I said, yeah, we'll be out there on Monday. And I'm like, all right, it wasn't a big job, so he'll be there at some point. Well, Monday came and went and he didn't show up. And so I called him up. I said, dude, you're supposed to be here. He goes, yeah, I'm coming on Monday. I said, well, today's Monday. No, next Monday. So it's just, they'll show up. They say they're coming Monday. They just don't tell you which Monday they're coming. And it was like 3 Mondays later that he actually showed up. I had already forgotten about it. And he's like, yeah, here to fix your deck. I'm like, dude, where you been?
Yeah, no, that goes a long way. Are there any other tactics you see effective in cultivating that kind of customer first culture in your business? That's answering the phone, showing up on time. Yeah.
You've got to make as much as you can. I coined the term Disnify. So it's creating experiences out of all of the mundane things we do. So we all have boring, mundane things that we do day in and day out to keep the business up and running. As I said earlier, Disney's just figured out a way to make experiences out of them. So I'll give you an example from my carpet cleaning business. One of the boring, mundane things we have to do is get into the house. If we can't get in the house, we can't do the carpet cleaning. So we created an experience out of that. And it starts actually out in the street, because that's where we park. We don't park in the driveway. God forbid I got an oil leak. Now I got something else I got to clean up. Technician gets out. He's in a clean uniform because he carries extra ones with him in case he gets dirty on the one beforehand. He doesn't smell, because I forbid smoking and I forbid cologne. Nothing worse than the Marlboro man who just took a shower in Axe standing in your living room. So he'll go up to the front door. He's got his special mat with him, a little gift, his tool bag. He lays down the special mat at the front door. He knocks on the door. He doesn't ring the bell. Mrs. McGillicuddy answers the door, says, hi, my name's Josh. I'm here to create your healthy home. May I come in? We don't just barge in. And then when, we're invited in, we do an exaggeration of wiping our feet on the mat. So that's our little theatrical thing. We want to make sure that she sees it. And then we put little booties on our clean shoes. And as we're going into the home, we give Mrs. McGillicuddy a gift. Now, when was the last time you had a home service person show up at your house, pest control, plumber, carpet cleaner, and they gave you a gift before they did any work? I mean, just here it is. Probably never.
Yeah.
And the gift isn't huge. It's under $5, but it's a little custom blue box, a bottle of our spot remover, a little bag of Entenmann's cookies, and a note from me saying, thanks so much for allowing us into your home. And when we implemented that gift, one, people talked about us. When at the end of any interaction with your company, you want people saying, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened when insert your profession. So, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened when the carpet cleaner came today. They gave me a gift. And so you get that. So that's where, your word of mouth comes from, because you got to give people stuff to talk about. And two, it starts a process called reciprocity. I give something to you, you feel compelled to give something back to me. So when we implemented the gift, we saw a 26% increase in our mid-tier package, or about an additional $65,000, $70,000 a year in sales just by implementing that little $5 gift. So it's those figuring out ways to, create an experience out of something boring that you already got to do.
Love it. Yeah, that focus on the process and each step has significance. A lot of business owners don't necessarily go above and beyond like that or think like that.
Well, and you've got to do it in iterations, So, I mean, it took us 6 or 7 months to come up with that complete process and have it laid out. Like, I mean, I always forbid smoking in our vans or actually smoking while you're on the clock, and then, cologne. So, I mean, that was always part of it. And then we're like, well, some guy had, got something on his shirt one day and, and then he goes to the next house and I'm like, well, that looks like hell. So, let's carry an extra shirt with you in the van in case you get dirty. One of my employees had the gift idea. He goes, I went to a friend's house and, for dinner. And so I brought a bottle of wine and some hors d'oeuvres. So like when you go to friends' houses, you bring a little gift. I'm like, yeah, you're right. We're going to get houses every day. We should probably bring them a little something.
I know you focus a lot on retention also, retention strategies. Do you find that it goes hand in hand with customer experience, or why do you think business owners should focus on retention also, rather than just driving top line?
A whole bunch of reasons. First and foremost, if you don't have a great experience, you don't really have a prayer for the retention side. So you got to get your experience right first. But I'll ask business owners, I said, do you have a budget for your marketing? And most of them will say, yeah. And then I ask them, okay, well, how much do you have budgeted for customer retention? And they all look at me like I got 3 heads. What do you mean? I said, well, it's really expensive to get a new customer in the front door, right? And it's relatively inexpensive to keep one. So in my carpet business, it cost me $136 to get a new customer in the front door. That's the pay-per-click ad and my web guy and the guy who answers the phone. You roll all that up, it's $136. It only cost me $23 a year to keep a customer. So wow. The minute we service an existing customer, I'm already $100 some odd more profitable. And once people hear that, especially if you're a financial advisor, and you're spending $2,000 to acquire a customer or a client, and then literally spending 25 to keep them, I mean, there's a definite financial benefit to doing this. And then you have to look at it also, as I mentioned earlier, it's not the customer's job to remember you. It's your job to remind them that you exist. And also, people hate it when the only time you ever hear from a business is when they want money, right? Oh, here's our coupon for the month. Here's our promotion for the month. Well, how come you didn't send me something nice, 2 months ago, just saying hi? So your retention system has to be a mix of non-salesy, relationship building, emotional connection stuff, and then you do probably 1/3 promotion. And it's that emotional connection stuff that really drives the customer retention. And I'm not talking lovey-dovey hug or anything like that. I'm talking, okay, when they first bought your product or used your service, there was some kind of emotional high. Oh, I just spent money, you get the dopamine and everything going. You want to continue that feeling after the purchase. And so you need to maintain that through, newsletters or postcards, get offline as much as you can. Mailboxes are empty these days. I get a catalog once in a while, but that's about it. So yeah, really focusing on how are you going to communicate with the customer once you got them and remind them, you need an existence system. You need to remind the customers that you exist and you're still there.
I'm sure we'll make some great clips.
I aim to please.
Yeah, I'm curious, on businesses you consult with, what are maybe some of the first things you look at? Or are there some, high leverage retention strategies you see common among a lot of businesses?
Well, I see a lack thereof retention strategies. Because they just think that, if I send them an email every other week, telling them about our spring offer, where's that going? It's either not getting there, it's going to spam, or your promotions folder, you're never going to see it. And if it does manage to get up into your inbox, it's deleted. I mean, that's what I do. You see the obvious ones and delete, delete, delete. So you have to have a mix of media, both online and offline. And as I said, you have to have that mix of moving the relationship forward and salesy stuff. So one of the key things I get my clients to do is a printed monthly newsletter. In print, not through email. I mean, a real Hold'em newsletter. And you want to activate as many senses as possible when you're communicating or marketing. So with a print newsletter, one, it's visual. Two, it's tactile. You can feel it. You open it up. Maybe it's even got a little smell of ink in it, or, whatever. And it crinkles, so now it's auditory. And it's designed to really to entertain and maintain that emotional connection. It's kind of like Reader's Digest Light. We have one section in there called Stupid Criminal Stories. So we go out and we look and find, the idiots that left their business card on the counter at the bank when they robbed the bank, and, stupid stuff like that. And we ran it for about 3 years. And I said, okay, I'm tired of this. I put like a recipe in the newsletter or something. We got angry phone calls.
Wow.
Where's the stupid criminal stories? So I'm like, all right, well, so I've not done that since then. But it told me a couple of things. One, people are really reading the newsletter. So there's that. And two, it told me that they want to be entertained. I mean, I could send them, an article on my new Suckomatic 3000 that'll, with the 10,000 watts of amps that'll, clean your carpet in 3 seconds. They don't care. They won't read that. But the stupid criminal story, they love it. It's a little break from life kind of thing. And then the other thing this is what I do. Others, you don't have to, is I shamelessly use my children in my marketing. They're all grown now, so it's gotten a little more difficult. My daughter's actually graduating high school this weekend, and when she was like 5 years old, she was doing ballet, and so I take a picture of her in her tutu at the recital, and so I put that in the newsletter, and I probably did that, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. I think she was like 12 when she stopped. So every year there was a picture of my daughter in her tutu at the recital. And we were in the grocery store one day, and this lady came running up to my daughter. She goes, "Oh my God, Emma, how was your recital?"
Wow.
Who is this nutty lady? We're ready to go hide in the frozen food section. And then I had to think, wait, she's got to be one of my customers, right? She has watched my daughter grow up. She even knew my daughter's name.
Yeah.
And, of course, my daughter's mortified, but she'll get over it. But that woman is not going anywhere. Right? She's either going to have to move or die before she stops using my company. So that's that emotional connection I'm talking about. So you don't have to use your kids. Maybe you like knitting or fishing or whatever, but something that's going to resonate with your clients.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, so another theme I can't miss on this show is AI and how you're implementing it. I know you mentioned earlier one of your differentiators is your customer experience. How does that now, been impacted in this new age of AI we're in?
It's a tool, right? Just like anything else. And, we use it to better support the humans that we have working with us, not replace, but support. I don't use it hardly ever, but I did create what it does is it gives me every morning, 6 a.m. gives me a summary of my day, and it goes and it looks so like my whole calendar. Here's what I got going on. And there was even a paragraph for this podcast that we're recording. And it went back and looked at all of the emails that went back and forth to create the calendar invite or the calendar entry. So I've got the entire history of our email, back and forth. So I know exactly what the podcast is about. I know who you are. I know that we've been talking for a couple of months, to get this on the. So that's the kind of thing I think, for business owners is okay. What can I do to help my productivity? But just taking your hands off and letting it run, yeesh, not my thing.
That's a great tip there. That's an interesting use case. I might start in looking into that too.
If I can do it, Pete, you can do it. Trust me. I am like, I speak 3 languages. Tech is not one of them. So, yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's definitely helped us on our marketing efforts where like we collect a lot of information about our clients. Do they have pets? Okay, they have pets. Great. Is it a cat or a dog or a ferret? And we feed all of this into our CRM and then some combination of AI. So when it's time to send out a promotional postcard, we can actually send the same message goes out, but the front of the postcard has got a dog for the dog people and a cat for the cat people of our customer base. I just got to upload their list and all of the notes that we've got on them. And, I can tell you 72% of our customers are dog people.
Yeah. Awesome. It's not replacing people. It's enhancing them, making them able to do more, accomplish more.
100%. Yep. Yeah. I mean, the answer is now, instead of them having to say, I'll call you back, the answer's right at their fingertips.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Awesome, Vance. I have one final question for you. If you had to pick one practical tip for business owners who want to start building a customer experience that drives retention and referrals, what would it be?
Well, hopefully I don't disappoint anybody, but it has nothing to do with experience or retention. It has to do with implementation, right? We all have a ton of information, right? But we don't have a lot of implementation. So if you want to move the needle, take something you heard on this podcast or something you read today or whatever, take that one idea and go and implement it. And then see the impact. And then next week, take another nugget and implement it. You're not going to profit unless you implement. And that's pretty much what I live by. So yeah, pick one thing and go do it.
Well said. Great way to end the show. It's been an incredible conversation today, Vance. If listeners enjoyed it as much as I have, where can they find you?
Sure, they can go to my website, which is vancemorris.com. And if they are not feeling overly creative, I have a gift for them. It's 52 ways to wow your customer. So you get one wow for every week of the year. And you can find that at wow52ways.com.
Great. Yeah, I'll leave that in the show notes. Well, great having you today, Vance. I enjoyed this conversation.
Great. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate you having me.
Exit algorithms. Scale smarter. Sell stronger.